Okay, I want to talk a bit about what we mean when we say uncomfortable and comfortable and how it applies to dog training. Okay, operant conditioning is very tricky. We've got videos on that explains every single quadrant. But if you look at it as something that may not have occurred to most people, and this is something that another trainer has taught me and I pass it down, but dogs always look to better their situation, right? And that even equates to hunger, temperature being too hot or too cold, the need for water. And so if we can provide the things that make a dog comfortable, that's how we can maintain a nice bond with the dog and we build trust, okay? So those seem pretty easy and almost seem like, well, the dog will figure all that stuff out themselves. Whether it's initially the dog is comfortable here in the sun, when it's had enough though, it's headed to the shade, all right? It's not thirsty now, but it knows where to go to get the water, all right? Positive reinforcement, okay? You can make a dog comfortable when you give something to the dog that it likes and use their hunger to harness that uncomfortable sensation, but you are giving something that makes the dog comfortable. So that's key. When we talk about equipment, it's also a sense of comfortable and uncomfortable, all right? The dog that pulls an owner down the street on a harness, that harness is comfortable. That encourages behavior. That's reinforcement. Additionally, if you have a dog that is reactive and is barking or growling or snapping at other dogs or people, pulling backwards on the harness is more reinforcement. It energizes and charges the dog up, and then they want to spring forward even more than they did before you ever pulled on the leash with the harness, okay? So we talk about a prong collar. Sit, sit, okay? Actually right then, sensation on the rear end to get a sit and a down, right? That's a little uncomfortable. The dog moved away from the uncomfortable sensation and it stopped, all right? Now, when you use equipment, you use a prong collar should be uncomfortable when a dog pulls on them, all right? It is to discourage a behavior. But if you do it correctly and you have distance when you apply punishment, applied punishment is positive punishment, okay? You've given something, you've added something that's uncomfortable. Use the length of the leash. We want to be away from an uncomfortable sensation. Returning to the person holding the leash makes the leash nice and loose. You'll see that loop that hangs. And the prong collar is disengaged. Okay? So if you need a little help really introducing the prong collar, you know, I would really suggest it. The dog that runs to the end of the leash can build up more speed and that's more force. Right? So be very fair and reasonable to the dog. But the dog shouldn't be pulling you down the street on a prong collar if it's fitted correctly and you're using it correctly. The change in direction, that's important too. There's your disengagement. So the uncomfortable sensation is to not be repeated. Coming back to the owner that's holding the leash, comfortable. Now, you layer on remote collar, right? Uncomfortable leash and collar, prong collar. Layer on remote collar. You press the button for being outside of this bubble that surrounds you, the comfortable bubble. But returning makes the leash loose and makes this turn off, okay? Use reasonable levels. We use these all the time, but we use such low levels that it should feel like a fly has landed on your arm. It's not painful, but it's uncomfortable. So, you know, we all have figured out how to make the fly fly away, and we do that, and the uncomfortable sensation is gone. So we're using a leash, we're using movement drills to show the dog how the prong collar and remote collar can then be comfortable again, okay? You know, additionally, people don't really consider this, but losing your balance is uncomfortable, okay? Having to maintain balance here on this place cot, it's like us walking on a trampoline. It's uncomfortable to lose your balance. So by design, they'll go into a down and relax. That's why we like them so much. Being at the edge here of the crossbars, losing the balance by going forward or backwards, right? So you can teach a stay really well. You'll see how we transition from movement drills to stationary drills, and we'll use stairs. Dogs that want to pick fights with other dogs, especially in public, right? Movement drills on the stairs. They have to pay attention to themselves, because one wrong step, they've lost their balance. Losing their balance spikes the heart rate. I mean, it's just like people. You go hiking in the woods, nobody looks for roots to trip over, but when you do, everything stops for a moment, right? You've lost your balance, you've been startled. So we can use that bit of startle to interrupt behavior. Interruption's punishment. All right. Additionally, we'll use some balance boards where we'll put an inflatable disc underneath place board, and we can be the control variable. So we can simply use our foot and make that board come out of balance. We're interrupting maybe when a dog would have become reactive towards another dog or person. We're doing it with very, very minimal force. We're doing with slow introductions, because the goal really is to have the dogs just coexist. Not everybody has to be friends, but at least don't fight with each other. You know, and coexistence and getting along with the dogs doesn't mean running around and wrestling all the time either. So just sit here and just be with each other, right? Whether it's in the house or it's in public, just be with each other, and you don't have to nose at each other or wrestle around all the time. So consider that uncomfortable and comfortable, and how we use it to encourage behavior or discourage behavior.